All right, welcome to the fourth and final installment of the Innovation Fireside Chat series. Just to give a little bit of a recap of what I've done so far. In my first video, I kind of laid out my personal definitions of innovation and then laid out my plans for gathering different perspectives. And originally, I had planned to talk to classroom teachers, administrators, and then district level officials. After the first three and having a chance to go back and watch those videos and hear the things that the guest speakers that I had said, I thought it would actually be more valuable to do a little bit of a reflection and recap on some of the things that I heard. And so instead of interviewing a district level official, I'm just going to share some of the commonalities and the themes that emerged for me as I went back and revisited those previous videos. So just to recap, the people that I spoke to, well, first I shared my personal perspective. So I'm a principal at a medium-sized Title I elementary school. And I shared what innovation means to me and what that potentially looks like in my own building. I also talked to the principal at a large affluent urban school on the other side of the country, so far removed from the Midwest. And then I also interviewed a classroom teacher. And what I found that was really interesting is when I talked to these guys and shared my personal definition of innovation, is that they were all pretty similar. So everyone defined innovation in their own words as basically something that is new, different, and better than what we had before in order to solve specific problems. And I think that that's really important. That commonality without any previous sharing of that information is what emerged as a common theme. We also talked a lot about what the obstacles to innovation are. And without fail, cost and funding sources came up from all levels of people that I talked to. Facilities was also mentioned several times. But with a recognition that there isn't a whole lot we can do about that unless your district is in preparation for building new facilities. The most important obstacle, I thought, though, really was the mindsets of teachers. And I think that that's an important thing to consider because as school or district leaders, we come up with a plan and it may be collaboratively built and there may be a lot of buy-in for it, but we're ultimately not the people who are executing the innovations within a classroom or in a building. That really comes down to teachers who are in front of students who are trying new things or executing the things that we've asked them to do. And if their mindsets are not innovative, if they're not open to new practices, that has the potential to derail even the best innovations. So a really important noticing across everybody who I talked to. We also talked about solutions to those obstacles. And while it's probably not the easiest one to implement, budget came up and more specifically really prioritizing innovation within the budget. So you can't have innovation kind of off here on the side. It's something we'll get to with leftover funding. It really has to be something that's built into everything you do and part of the sort of the core values of your organization. That also includes prioritizing it in your professional learning plan. We talked earlier about mindsets, and you can't shift people's mindsets without providing them the necessary support. So having a professional development, a professional learning plan that includes opportunities for teachers to get more comfortable with innovative ideas and time to collaborate about how they're going to be implemented is really important. And that again came up across all the people that I talked to. I also thought that it was really interesting to hear, I asked the question, what comes next? What's the next big innovation? And I had very similar responses. And I want to preface this with the teacher that I interviewed works for me in my building. And so they're very familiar with the initiatives that I've put forth. But the principal that I interviewed is on the opposite side of the country, so has no connection to the specific initiatives for my building or for the state of South Dakota. And so I thought it was very interesting that the most prevalent common theme across all of the people that I talked to was the personalization or individualization of education. I specifically talked about mass customized learning and how that is a mixture of blended and personalized learning. But both of the teachers that I talked to talked about a need to shift our pedagogy away from a time-based system, again, in their own words. So I think it's important to think that across the country we're talking about how do we meet the individual needs of students beyond just the idea of differentiating within the classroom. So finally, I think I do want to talk a little bit about the role of technology in this. And it was missing from every single definition that was provided, whether by me, by a classroom teacher, or by another administrator. And I think that's important because I think in general, when we envision what innovation looks like, there's usually some sort of technology embedded within that. And what was illustrated is that it's really more about having an innovative mindset rather than having specific tools in place. But I do want to also say that as part of the planning for innovation, infrastructure really does need to be built around providing the technology that's necessary to get some of these initiatives off the ground. So for example, in customized learning, it's essential to have a learning management system and a way to collect data and student work digitally so that those things can be archived over time. So I have thoroughly enjoyed doing this series. Number one, it has reaffirmed a lot of my personal beliefs about innovation and the direction we need to be headed in education. And it's also expanded and deepened some of my views. So I hope you've enjoyed this series as much as I've enjoyed making it. Thanks.